When Sarah's promotion was suddenly blocked by hidden agendas, she faced a choice: play dirty or stick to her values. What she did next secured her promotion and started to shift her department's working culture, changes that were visible within months. In this episode, I'll show you the exact steps she used, the map of influence she created, the one-on-ones that rebuilt support, and the reframes that turned resistance into alignment. If you're facing politics and don't want to cave, watch this. It all began when she realized the real decision-making didn't match the formal organization chart. If you're new here, please subscribe and like, because I share tips to help you improve your career. The hidden power structure was the real terrain Sarah had to navigate, and it didn't look anything like the official hierarchy hanging on the wall. On paper, she had everything lined up: proven results, strong qualifications, and even her manager's support. But when her key project required cooperation across finance and marketing, she ran into silent resistance that never surfaced directly in meetings. Progress stalled, and explanations were vague at best. Something else was clearly at work. Instead of focusing only on titles, she began to watch how influence actually moved through the company. She noticed who got the pre-briefs before formal announcements, who was quietly looped into closed-door meetings, and whose advice leaders consistently sought out before making a call. By combining those observations, she could piece together an informal map of influence. Here's the method she used, and one you can apply yourself. First, observe who is asked for input on key issues. Second, track invitations to one-on-one or private discussions that happen before broader team sessions. Third, keep a running list of the same names that appear again and again. Finally, place those notes alongside the formal committee structure to see where unofficial influence overlaps, or even outweighs, formal authority. Sarah literally listed these individuals and labeled them as influence nodes. With that tool in hand, the decision-making patterns became visible. Using this approach, she spotted 3 hidden pivots: a long-time analyst in finance, a strategic marketing director, and an operations manager trusted for her blunt honesty. They weren't on the approval committee, yet their perspectives shaped what the committee ultimately endorsed. This explained why her VP sponsor alone wasn't enough to move her promotion forward. His authority was diluted by the weight of informal consensus. Organizational behavior research backs this up. Informal networks often shape major decisions alongside formal channels, which means leaders who rely only on charts and titles miss the bigger picture. Sarah now understood that success depended on engaging with these influencers directly rather than leaning on her sponsor alone. But recognizing the hidden power structure was only the first step. What she tried next, how she attempted to win people over, would expose just how easily a well-intentioned move can backfire. If you're finding this helpful, please subscribe and like, because it helps us create content that matters to you. Also, if you want to take your skills further, check out our executive education and executive coaching programs at execbeat.com. Sarah's first major setback came from how she tried to build alliances. Confident that strong business logic would speak for itself, she centered her case on data and projections. She prepared detailed presentations highlighting clear financial benefits and operational efficiencies her initiative could bring. Her models even suggested there could be substantial cost savings and faster turnaround times across teams. She then scheduled meetings with department heads, equipped with carefully designed slide decks she believed would win support quickly. But instead of enthusiasm, her efforts were met with silence, stalling, and avoidance. The reactions followed a steady pattern. First, the marketing director, who had seemed open to the idea, started cancelling meetings with vague scheduling conflicts. Then, finance asked for additional analysis that would take weeks to compile, effectively slowing momentum. Finally, when Sarah pressed for decisions, she heard only polite deferrals about timing and priorities. Within 3 weeks, passive resistance had solidified. Even relationships that once felt cooperative grew tense. The operations manager, who used to chat easily, now avoided casual conversation, and follow-up discussions that once flowed naturally ended abruptly. Research shows this dynamic is common. Many change efforts stall not because the proposal is inherently weak, but because political resistance and stakeholder concerns are underestimated. Background research also makes clear why. Rational arguments often fail when they leave out relationships, priorities, and informal influence. In practice, data alone rarely convinces without social buy-in. Sarah's heavy reliance on charts and numbers overlooked this reality and unintentionally made people defensive, as if their own priorities were being dismissed. She eventually recognized that the flaw wasn't in her projections, but in how she framed the entire effort. By bypassing alliances and going straight to decision-makers with a hard business case, she accidentally signaled that she was ignoring existing dynamics. What she meant as persuasion came across as pressure. A trusted colleague quietly confirmed this by telling her that her campaign made people feel boxed in rather than consulted. That single piece of feedback forced Sarah to stop pushing ahead and rethink her entire approach. She realized that if she kept operating this way, she would only deepen resistance. What she needed was a path forward that could generate trust without compromising her values. Sarah's turning point was adopting what she called the integrity-based strategy. Rather than doubling down on persuasion or countering politics with more politics, she shifted to listening first. She moved from sales pitches to listening, an approach the research links to higher trust and better outcomes because it signals voice and procedural respect. Her new method relied on one-on-one conversations, but used with a different intent. Instead of presenting data slides, she followed 3 simple steps in each meeting. First, she opened with, "What's your biggest pressure right now?" Then, she repeated back what she heard to confirm she understood correctly. Finally, she asked, "What would make this doable for you?" Those micro steps gave stakeholders a sense of voice, demonstrated respect for their constraints, and invited them to shape the path forward. The results were immediate. With the operations manager, open-ended questions surfaced that his resistance wasn't opposition to the project itself, but a practical concern about overloading his team while they were operating with fewer resources. Reflecting back, his concerns confirmed he felt understood, and asking what was workable led him to suggest a phased rollout. That reframe turned a hard no into a conditional yes. In her conversation with the marketing director, Sarah uncovered bandwidth issues around major product launches. Rather than challenging the concern, she proposed adjusting timelines to avoid those busy windows, freeing the director from added pressure. For both stakeholders, Sarah also tied her initiative explicitly to shared organizational goals, such as improving customer satisfaction scores and cutting costs across departments, so that her project was no longer about her promotion, but about collective wins. Research in organizational behavior reinforces this strategy. Trust and collaboration grow when leaders emphasize transparency, respect for input, and fairness in process. This approach takes more time and patience than a hard political push, but it builds sustainable support. Exactly what studies show pays off when you need durable collaboration, not a one-off win. Step by step, Sarah transformed reluctant resistors into engaged collaborators. Instead of fighting battles, she built allies through genuine alignment. The true test of this strategy came in the months that followed, as the collective groundwork she had laid was put to the ultimate decision-making test. 6 months later, Sarah's promotion was approved unanimously by the same committee that had once blocked her. Even more importantly, her department showed a measurable increase in cross-functional project success, progress her colleagues credited to the stronger collaborative relationships she helped foster across the organization. Here are 3 steps you can apply tomorrow. First, map the informal influencers. Notice who gets pre-briefs, early calls, and private invitations, because spotting influence nodes lets you target the right conversations. Second, run short listening interviews with open questions, reflections, and what would make this work? Because voice and respect reduce pushback. Third, reframe and phase proposals, align with others' constraints and suggest staged rollouts, because smaller wins with timing build trust and increase buy-in. Real leadership isn't avoiding politics, it's navigating them with clear values, transparency, and a focus on shared results. If you found this useful, leave one quick comment about the toughest informal influencer you faced. I'll read them. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like, because it helps us bring you more free videos. And if you're ready to grow your career, visit execbeat.com to learn about our executive education and coaching.